Hello and welcome to Zerocarbonista Series 6, The Cow in the Room. I'm Ian Collins and this is your number one go-to environment-based podcast. And this is interesting, Dale, because sometimes you have weeks where you try to take your foot off the gas and go, I'm going to do do you remember you did a November where you said no to everything?
Yeah.
And it was you only succeeded at about 30%, I reckon.
30 seconds probably.
30 seconds, and then you ended up having to do multiple things, which was great. But of course, the intention was to relax a little bit, but it didn't happen. And this week's been a bit mad like that as well, right?
Yeah, a bit mad. Yeah, in London yesterday. I'm in London tomorrow. I'm in London again at the weekend, actually. But for like good purposes, tomorrow I'm going to talk on ITV News about Zonal, and I think we're going to come to that story. Yep. I'm doing News Night tomorrow night. Friday, improbably, I'm meeting with Billie Eilish's mother.
Oh, hang on a second. You can't just gloss over that. That's the most random thing you've ever said. I'm meeting with Billie Eilish's mum. What's going on?
At a school in Hackney. She's a campaigner, and we're coming together to campaign really for better food in schools, plant-based food in schools. Yeah. And this whole school for the day is going to eat Devil's Kitchen food, the stuff from Forest Green. We're going to take our burger van there. It's not like your average burger van, and that should be really fun. But the mayor was going to come, but I think he's busy, which is a shame. And then the next day, if I'm lucky, we're going to try and get tickets to see Billie Eilish at the O2. I think she's playing there for 5-6 days or something like that.
Okay.
So I've got a weekend of fun and kind of good stuff coming up.
That's amazing. So Billie Eilish's mum, hoping to see Neil Young, pitching up on. Did you mention News Night?
News Night tomorrow, yeah.
News Night tomorrow as well.
ITV News in the afternoon on Zonal.
Fantastic, and an appearance in the Daily Mirror as well this week.
Not to be confused with anal.
They where they quoted you saying something you didn't actually say, which is unusual for a tabloid newspaper.
It's very unusual. So we had a chat about the wealth tax. Which I've been campaigning for a long time, along with Patriotic millionaires. I love that organization because they've got a Ron Seal name. Millionaires that are fucking patriotic.
We got them on the radio in the week as well. Last week, on the back of us talking about it, I thought we've got to get these guys on to talk about it. And they were
good one.
The guy was so good that we had on. He'd done all his research, all his homework. He wasn't just sort of pulling figures out the bag. He talked about the mass support that it has from the very people that will be paying the tax. So
exactly.
That's almost all you need to know, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, they ran a survey and it showed that 80% of people that will be affected by this tax or would be support the idea. And there's always fear. And this is what I talked to the Mirror about. There's fear in government circles, and it's whipped up by the press. I think it's overdone. It's like range anxiety in an electric car, and this is like millionaire exodus anxiety, right? And press have been banging on about it since the October budget, when capital gains tax went up a few percentage points. Yep. And but the stats behind it show 0.3% of millionaires left the country kind of around about since then, which is a little bit more than background levels, but not that much, right? It's not an exodus. But that's one of the reasons for not doing it. And then the other reasons that people come out with is like, oh, but it'd be so difficult. How do we measure it? Blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And I'm like, look, the tax man, right? He deals with the self-assessment of tens of millions of people. And here, the wealth tax, we're talking 20,000 people. How hard can it be to get the affairs of 20,000 people under the microscope and say, well, what have you got? What's it worth? Give us some tax, right?
Some people did, after our guest was on, a few people, not unreasonably, rang in and said, you do know if you're that rich, you can fill out a form and just give some money to the Treasury.
Yeah, sure.
What do you say? You're aware of that, I know. What do you think?
Yeah, people say that to me all the time. And I say, yeah, of course. And that's one thing. But, I mean, it shouldn't be that way, right? There should be a
system in place.
Yeah, that's right. And what I've been arguing is that our tax system is unequal. It's created the inequality. We've got extreme poverty, extreme wealth. Our tax system has created that and perpetuates that, because if you've got money, the tax you pay on the money you make with that money is half the rate of the tax you'll pay if you work for a living.
Yeah.
So, in my book, I call it, money made with a pair of hands is a job. Yep. And we pay twice as much tax on that money as we do money made with money, which is investments, properties, that kind of stuff. And I don't understand why. Fundamentally, I asked the question, why is it like that? And all I can think of is that the tax code that we have was written by rich people for rich people, or people with money is another way to describe it. And it's 3,000 pages long, our tax code. And Singapore, very successful economy, has a tax code of 1/10 of the size. And ours is chock full of allowances and exceptions. You need an army of accountants to understand it. It's just madness. I say we should simplify it and we should equalize it so that all money made is treated as income, whether you earn it with a pair of hands or with a shed load of money.
Bricks and mortar, whatever it happened to be.
Yeah, who cares, right?
It's interesting. Lord Kinnock, Neil Kinnock, former Labour leader, weighed in on that. He supports this too. And the great thing, I thought, was that it did allow the Daily Mirror to give you a new snappy name, Dale, because you're now known as a power mogul.
Power baron.
Power baron.
I've been called a mogul before. That's fine. And a tycoon and stuff. But yeah, baron. You're confusing me now. Baron. I thought it was great. And we didn't actually nail the point. The Mirror were misquoting me insofar as they said I was telling Rachel Reeves what to do about this wealth tax. I was telling the Mirror what I thought. Yeah. And they translated that into Power Baron tells Rachel Reeves impose a wealth tax now.
Well, there it is. We're going to watch with fascination how this pans out because, Starmer's been asked about it and he's kind of not said no.
Yes, although today in the House of Commons in PMQs, talking to Badenoch, he did say, he was, I don't know, he seemed to suggest he wasn't for, he said we can't tax our way to growth, is what he said.
Well, it's got to come from somewhere, isn't it? Well, I don't know how else you get it. I mean, you can call it by different names, but thresholds and God knows what else.
That's right. Do you know what? I think of it, Ian, as like welfare cuts for the wealthy, because all of these tax allowances are a form of welfare for people with loads of money.
It's a good point, actually. Right. I mean, it's literally exactly that.
I believe so.
Do you know what you are, Dale? You're a power baron.
I thought you were going to say genius, but I'll take power baron.
Well, that bit's a given, frankly. Let's look at this story. Ed Miliband abandons plans to charge less for electricity in Scotland. Is this kind of the zonal pricing issue again?
It is not to be confused, obviously, as I said before. It is, and it looks like it's dead. It looks like it's toast. It's a bonkers idea. It's a Johnson era idea, or at least Tory era, because Labour inherited it and have been looking at it. And thank God it's being put to death this week. I don't think we'll hear it formally until probably Friday. It kind of leaked out today. The Guardian ran one story, then they tweaked it to say it's waiting formal sign-off by all the cabinet or something like that. Yeah. But it looks like Zonal is dead. RIP, I say. And that gives space, hopefully, for breaking the link to, make some kind of, come and fill the gap, right? Because according to the Guardian, ministers are looking now for ways to bring bills down. It's like, hello, I've been telling them for a couple of years. Actually, the last Tory administration and this one, break the link, the link between the price of fossil gas and the price of the wind and the sun and that kind of stuff. Shed loads of money involved in it. And recently shared with the Chancellor's office.
Sure.
The research we've done shows that in 2023, breaking the link would have saved us £43 billion off our energy bills. 13 of that was off domestic energy bills, and that would have knocked 1.4% off the headline rate of inflation, 1.4 percentage points. Wow. So it would have gone from 7 point something to 5.9. And I think that's fundamentally important because the headline rate of inflation drives what the Bank of England does with rates. That drives mortgages. It reduces the amount of money in people's pockets and actually deliberately shrinks the growth in the economy to control inflation. And we can bring inflation down by breaking the link. And that's only taking into account of the domestic portion, because we can't model the effect of business energy bill rises. That needs a treasury model. So what we're saying to them now is, why don't you model 2023? I think we're talking 2 to 3 percentage points, or almost a halving of the inflation rate if we'd have broken the link, which is just incredible.
Here's a great story, Dale, from America. Well, I say a great story. I mean, it's kind of like Netflix and popcorn type story. The Elon Musk and Donald Trump blowout continues. Tesla in a bit of a mess, it seems.
I love what's happening. The end of the bromance between Musk and Trump. And of course, Tesla shares have been taking a hit. All kinds of things have been happening. Trump has gone so far as to suggest that Musk might have his citizenship revoked and they might send him back to South Africa. I mean, I love that. Sometimes Trump says things that are just like wonderful. I like that one. I would do that if I was Trump.
Trump has also suggested that Doge, Elon Musk's favored money-saving thing, should cancel SpaceX and Tesla's other federal contracts.
Yeah,
You want to
which
save money, Elon? Cancel your rocket, sucker.
are tens of billions of subsidies that man has had from the US government. And, it's so ironic and fucking hypocritical to then come along and run this dodgy Doge thing
Yeah.
and sack a load of people, or slash a load of aid programs that do
Sure.
great good around the world, in the name of like saving subsidies.
And then just to top it all off, as we record this, literally in the last few minutes, Linda Yaccarino, who's the chief executive of X, another business owned by Mr. Musk, has just stepped down. Now, I don't know what the significance of that is, but it does look, like it's another factor in the dismantling, perhaps, of Elon Musk's empire.
The unraveling of his world.
The unraveling, as it were, spoken like a true Baron, Dale.
Yeah.
Let's look at this story. London's low traffic zones cutting deaths and injuries by more than a third. What about that?
I like this because it's research based. It's over, I think, 100 different low traffic zones. LTNs, I think they're called. And it runs counter to the narrative of the last government, the Tory government, who said that low traffic zones didn't do anything for safety. And in fact, they pushed traffic out onto the main roads where they caused less safety to be taking place. They did their own research. The research didn't give them the answer they wanted, so they buried it. But this is independent research, and it shows, blimey, a 30% increase in safety or reduction in deaths and injuries in low traffic neighborhoods, LTNs, and no impact on the bigger roads that are adjacent to them, no impact. And I think it's fantastic because our friend Sadiq, he comes under a lot of pressure for the clean air zone, for low traffic neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff. And he's actually doing a good job. He's cleaning up the air Londoners breathe, and he's making the streets safer for residents, and this research supports what he's been doing.
Yeah, and there is the data. 2022 report showed LTNs also reduce air pollution, which is reported to kill 500 people a week, 3,000 per annum, Dale.
I think it's 30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a scary number.
It might have just been in that area.
No, it's actually there's a national figure for it. It used to be 40,000. I don't know if 30,000 is an update, but it did appear in the news in the last week or two. But these are deaths from air pollution. Our government have been tracking it forever. It's tens of thousands of people, and it's allowed. I don't know how it's allowed, but it just is.
And we'll keep our eye on that one as well, because there's clearly, as the years develop, there's going to be more and more of these areas where low traffic neighborhoods are explored by other local councils. So we'll watch with interest.
Absolutely.
This is
Go on, Dan. Well, I just want to say that electric cars, of course, are cleaning up the air as well.
Yeah.
For all of the whinging about electric cars, the more we have on the roads, the cleaner the air is, and I say that's a good thing. Because the right to have clean air to breathe is fundamentally more important than somebody's right to drive a V8, down a neighborhood. Dodge Pod, did you say?
Driving a V8 Dodge Pod.
Oh yeah, one of them. Yeah. Through an LTN. It's like, come on, f*** off.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we touched on this story last week about the amount of energy required to fuel AI. And there was that interesting little factoid that one question or one request on ChatGPT or any of the others requires half a litre of water for every question. So there was that, but also the huge strain on power and electricity that's required just to make this thing work. Here's a bit of good news. Scientists from 3 British universities are working together to make an atom-thick graphene chip that slashes energy use for computing by over 90%.
Wow-wee.
That's got to be massive, right?
That is massive. It's massive. That's 90% massive.
Yeah.
I love it. You remind me, whether it's interesting or not, I don't know, but our Skydiamond enterprise, where we've been making diamonds from thin air for some years now, we're just pivoting into quantum diamonds. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but these are like a fascinating kind of, they look like a branch of science fiction, or they sound like it, but it's actually a new industry globally, as well as for Britain. So this is about diamonds that are they're tweaked at the molecular level, and it makes them sensitive at the molecular level to things like magnetism, to changes of direction and that kind of stuff. And the forecasts are that there are 3 or 4 main branches of outcome. One of them would be that we could navigate with our phones with no satellites, because it would know exactly where we were in the world based on knowing where we started and measuring all minute movements. There's a British University have created this like a headdress, like a cap with long tendrils that run down your body of quantum sensors that replaces an MRI, faster, quieter, without the heavy magnetism and shit like that. And something else I can't remember, but look it up. Wikipedia have a great write-up on quantum sensing, and we've made our first one already. And
amazing.
I'm loving it. It's just great fun.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
By the way, well, let me do this question first, but it's reminded me of something we forgot to do. This comes from Johnny on email. It says, Dale, I've seen a lot of people saying Glastonbury is getting too political with its Palestine flags and chanting musicians. Do you think music and festivals are getting more political? And is this a good thing? It's always been a bit political, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it has always. I think festivals have always been a bit of a lefty hotbed, haven't they? Certainly in my experience. Yeah, part and parcel. And I think that what Bob Villan said at Glastonbury, I think has been, I think it's been misused, misinterpreted. The chief rabbi of Britain called it anti-Semitism, but he was actually chanting death to the IDF, who are a bunch of murderous bastards, right? They're like one of the most powerful armies in the world, and they've been pulverizing Palestine. They've been firing tank shells into food aid queues. Every day they kill dozens of Palestinians who are queuing for aid from this new organization that the Israelis have organized, having replaced the UN. I mean, it's a crazy system. And, what Bob Villan said wasn't anti-Semitic. It was anti the fucking IDF.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
This one, by the way, I mentioned Palestinian flags. What's the flag update on your HQ?
Yeah, flag update. So we bugged this big flag up. It went up during Glastonbury, actually, and just to show more support for Palestine.
This is wrapped around the sort of Ecotricity building, right?
It's on the front of it, which is a like real prominent building and that kind of stuff. Loads of people in Stroud love it, and have thanked us for putting it up because of what it means and that kind of stuff. The council had a couple of complaints and wrote to us and said, actually, you need planning permission for this flag. We think they're wrong about that, because the regs say that you can fly the flag of a national country. Their interpretation is it has to be recognized by the UK. The regs don't say that. So we're going to take this as far as we have to prove that we're allowed to fly it without planning permission. But meanwhile, the people that run the council in our town are Greens, and they put out a fabulous statement supporting what we've done, the reasons that we've done it for, and saying that they're aware that the planners have said we need permission. That's not their job to get involved in that, but they support what we're doing, and which is just a wonderful thing to hear from your council.
From your elected leaders.
Yeah, and this shadowy group of people called UK Lawyers for Israel, they wrote to us when we first flew the flag up Forest Green, threatening all kinds of stuff. We told them to f*** off, and they did. We never heard from them again. It was pretty decent of them.
Well, it kind of worked rather well, that whole scenario, didn't
That's
it? Really?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Hello, we'd like to work with you. F*** off. Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, we just dismissed all of their arguments. It was stupid. They said flying the Palestinian flag is racist. And we're like, well, how? How is it? Criticizing Israel is racist. We're like, how? How is it? I criticize my own government. I criticize the US government. Does that make me a racist? You know what I mean? They run stupid arguments, but they ran some last week against organizers of a festival called Radar. And they caused them to ban or cancel Bob Villan. And I just think that's terrible, because what happens is you get a letter from a bunch of lawyers and they say, ooh, you could be in trouble here.
Yeah,
and
people get scared because they think, what if we get sued or something?
They've done the same with a couple of councils where people were flying the Palestinian flag. And so we need to take this all the way to prove that you can fly a Palestinian flag in our country, despite whatever the fuckheads at the UK Lawyers for Israel might say, right? Who cares what they say? Because we have the legal right. I think we have the moral obligation, but we have the legal right.
Maybe they'll try and cancel this podcast.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Well, just return them the same letter that you sent last time.
Yes.
Here's one from Karen on email. It says, I've read that Ed Miliband wants to increase onshore wind capacity by replacing planning laws to allow windmills on all kinds of houses. Will these small windmills, however, ever generate enough power to make a difference to homeowners? And how big would one of these windmills need to be? It's a good question.
That's a good question. So, like, one of the companies I run is called BritWind, and it makes little windmills. I don't know if you know that, but we've got a tiny one that is rated at 1 kilowatt. So I'm going to show you now. I think the blade span. Oh, it's just off the screen, but it's something like that, right? That's the blade span, and
That's
it's
about a
got
meter, just over a meter.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, and it's got a 1 kilowatt peak output, and over a year, well sited, it should make 3 megawatt hours, which is an average house, right?
Yeah.
It's a big old contribution. So it's all about how you site them. And what your access to the wind is looking like, not being overshadowed by trees and stuff like that. A bit like solar in a way, but they make more per installed kilowatt than solar panels do. So there's definitely potential there, potential to help us, meet our green energy needs. We did a study 6 months ago, shared it with Ed Miliband, actually. We called it the Rooftop Revolution, and it showed that 17 million homes in Britain are suitable for solar panels. And if we did them all, we can make 13% of all the electricity the nation uses, business and homes. And because we're only trying to fill a gap of 50% now, that means if we did 17 million homes, we'd have 25% of the gap that we're trying to build right now between now and 2030. Plus, we don't have to wait in a grid queue like you do for big offshore and onshore projects, actually, because the grid is really running out now. You don't have to wait at all because the grid is there. You deliver the power at the deepest level of integration of the grid. You save losses and stuff like that. But most importantly, it gives millions of people a stake in the green economy, a direct stake. We're running numbers and lobbying government at the moment to fund a program like this because it's possible to get a rate of return of 8 to 10% for the government and knock 25% off the electricity bills of millions of people, starting with public sector housing is our idea. So, let's see what happens.
Yeah, we will. Should we do X-rated corner?
I think we should.
Yeah, these are for
think
those. For those who don't know, this is fast becoming one of the most popular parts of the podcast. These are people who are not necessarily fans of Dale Vince, and they don't mind saying it out loud in various salty ways. This is one called Mince Sauce Sarnie. It's reference a post by Gary Economics, who's a kind of left-wing economic voice. He's released a figure that says the top 0.1% are getting richer, and Mince Sauce Sarnie says, Dale, aren't you one of the 0.1% when you're handing over your fortune to the less fortunate?
I have no idea if I am or I aren't, but you remind me that I'm actually in the top 100 of UK taxpayers according to the latest results.
There you go. But also, you are agitating for a wealth tax. So
yeah. And I pay my tax, right? All of the companies I've created are based here in Britain. I have nothing offshore. I have no trusts. I have nothing in tax havens. Nothing, just nothing abroad. It's all here, and we pay tax here. That puts me in the top 100 bracket of taxpayers in Britain.
Well, try telling that to Billy Meredith, because he's not a fan of yours, Dale. Billy says, you are a idiot. Of course they are terrorists. Palestine action, damaged military equipment. Personally, I'd have shot them on sight. It's not very kind, is it?
It's not very kind, is it? It's like, all right, so you'd respond to paint with bullets.
Yeah.
Which one's a terrorist, really?
Yeah. This one from Ravenchild Art on Insta, who reference Labour can still be the greenest party, and Dale's PTC that says, get to know me. It's a PTC, by the way.
I was about to ask you that.
I don't know. PTC?
Get to know me. What's that all about?
Yeah, sounds a bit weird. It's like some kind of app you're on. Anyway, he says, you try to force a vegan diet on me while I'm in hospital, mister. I'll sue you into poverty. You can have whatever weird little cult-like religion you like, but you don't get to force it on the rest of us.
That's really interesting because we are working with doctors and medical professionals in a campaign to change the food that the NHS feeds to sick people, because at the moment it feeds bad food to sick people. It feeds food that makes people sick to sick people, which doesn't make any sense, does it? So maybe he's referring to that,
And Dave SG on Insta says, we knew this was coming. It didn't happen last week, unusually, but it's happened this week, Dale. He says, look at this bloke's barnet. This tells you everything you need to know.
And I just had a haircut last week. I think I was showing it to you.
Yeah, come on. You showed off the new look.
I've got a cut, It was all fuzzy and it just grown for like 6 weeks or something while my hairdresser was on the run. I don't know what was going on.
Probably in jail for hair crimes. Listen, Dale, that's it for this week, but we will speak in 7 days.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And don't forget, of course, you can follow Dale on social media, twitter.com or x.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince, and on TikTok too.
Yeah, a little bit of news night tomorrow, and
It's all happening.
I'll be in the mirror. They'll call me a baron. It'll be me. If they call somebody a baron, they're talking about me.
Yeah.
Power baron, obviously.
Power baron, obviously.